Hey folks, Cameron Scott here, and another informal video for you, and that is, this is the general premise. Comicsgate is about love, and SJW comics are about hate. And I hate simplifying things to that because human beings are not, we can't be simplified, you know? Like for instance, saying a person is good or bad strips them of the decisions that they've made in life. You know, we've all made bad decisions, and hopefully we've made good decisions. And anyways, I don't like having to put labels on things or make judgments. But something's got to be said, and I'm not the only one. Obviously, I'm not a loud voice in the Comicsgate community by any means. But Comicsgate, since its inception, has been about bringing back the comics that we love. And that does not mean comic books with white male leads. It means comics with great great artwork, well-paced action elements and narratives. And most importantly, this is the most important part, creators that appreciate and respect their customers. That is a form of love that is missing in a lot of the comic creators of today, whether they're artists or writers or editors or just somehow an ancillary part of the comic book industry. But Comicsgate is not about hate. Even when we criticize comic books that we don't like, we don't hate the person that made them. Now, there are times where, you know, we'll roast an author or we will call out bad art. But the most anger that you will get out of us is when a creator disrespects a customer. That is when we get defensive. That's when we will comment, and we will, you know, we will defend, and sometimes that can be quite contentious. I'm one of the comic skaters. I don't want there to be a war, you know. I don't want people to feel bad. I don't want people's lives and careers to be ruined. Megs Visaggio, I don't think is a good writer, but you know what? I want her to either find success in the comic book industry by failing and learning to become a better author, or finding an industry that she actually excels in. Other folks that I don't agree with politically, or I recently chatted sort of with Kwanzaa on Twitter, and I was like, you know, we don't really have any hard feelings towards you. We don't hate you. And I proceeded to get a lecture from him about, you know, how our whole movement is hate-based. He and several others, including Daryl Ayo, call Comicsgate comics hate. And again, there's really not a lot of evidence that we are a hate movement. Again, we love good comic books, and we love good creators. That's all we are about. And sometimes it gets lost in the commotion of conversation, you know. There are times where we roast a little too hard, or our defense is a little offensive. But I'm not apologizing for those things because, you know, we're the customers. We have a right to demand better services, better products. And I have seen so much hate and vitriol come from comic book creators and those in that community. They are so willing to lump anyone that disagrees with them politically as a Nazi, a bigot. I mean, I don't see people on the Comicsgate side bunching people together. I think the worst term that we use is SJW, and it's more a comical term. I mean, we don't like social justice, we don't like social justice activism, but the worst term we use is SJW. What's the worst thing that Comicsgaters get called? Nazis. I mean, we're talking about people that were a part of a genocide. Are they really, I mean, is SJW and Nazi really equivalent terms in the conflict of conversation? No, it's not. There has been calls for violence from comic book pros. You have Mags Visaggio wanting to take a baseball bat to people like, Diversity in Comics and other conservatives. You have Michelle Prez, again, wishing for violence against diversity in comics. You have B. Clay Moore and Heather Ottos trying to be part of this conspiracy to get diversity in comics in legal trouble. You have Tim Doyle trying to dox, legal information about diversity in comics, private family affairs. That is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many other incidences that could be mentioned, and I'm not privy to all that information. There are great channels like Diversity in Comics, like Douglas Ernst, that catalog in detail all of the horrible things that these comic book pros level at. We're just regular folks that want to enjoy good comic books. When we say that we want good comic books, we want things the way that they used to be, that is not code for we just want white hetero males. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard Diversity in Comics explicitly talk about his love of the Storm-led X-Men era in the early 90s and late 80s. And the fact that one of his favorite superheroes is Night Thrasher, a black vigilante. And the fact that one of the newer comic books that he has plugged relentlessly is Silencer, an African-American assassin. Diversity in Comics, Richard C. Meyer released a graphic novel that did extremely well called Jawbreaker's Lost Soul, that has a homosexual character and a black character, among other minority characters. So this idea that Comicsgate is all about hate has no bearing whatsoever. One of the reasons why I chose to do this video is because of the way Tony Isabella decided to respond to a Comicsgater. He posted a garage sale photo that essentially showed his residential location, and a Comicsgater, trying to be courteous, said, hey, you might dox yourself by doing that. And what does he do? He berates the guy for just making a comment, something that was really out of courtesy and respect to Mr. Isabella. On top of that, other folks are like, hey, the guy was well-intended. Oh, you're blocked. You're banned. You're blocked. You're banned. And then this constant poking at Comicsgate. I mean, it was just so juvenile and mean-spirited. I mean, we didn't do anything to Tony Isabella. I can't think of a single time prior to this incident where one of his comics was roasted or we said ill of his character. I can't think of a single time. And for him to childishly, treat people online that are customers of his, that have bought his products in the past, for him to be so disrespectful is just shows the level of thinking and the level of vitriol that is within these entitled, established industry insiders. The real hate is coming from these folks. And it's time to call it out. The comic book industry, the SJW crowd, the people that just want to block and not have a single conversation. They'd rather, you not even exist in their world. That is true hatred. I'm fine with SJWs having their say, even having their comic books, but let us also have ours. Respect our space and our beliefs, and let us have our things. But instead, you would deny us even any association or any means of communication with you. That is not a sign of that is not a good sign. That I don't see any love or respect stemming from folks like that. I'd love to hear comments on this. Am I off base? Am I just ranting? Because look, I'm not some zealot of Comicsgate. I believe in the move the needle mission. I believe in the fact that a lot of comic books have been pushing a singular narrative and the quality in comic books has deteriorated as time has progressed. And the social commentary in comic books these days, again, while also being singular, has lacked nuance and character and any ounce of three-dimensional nature. I doubt that any of these folks that spew such hatred towards folks that just want a better product, I doubt these folks have any family members or friends that are Christian or conservative or even moderately right-leaning. These are people that want to live in an echo chamber, and they're free to disprove me. If I am wrong, call it out and prove it. Because all I have seen from these folks on Twitter and other social mediums is hatred towards folks that just want to see improvement in the comic book industry. But what do I know? I'm just some guy. I can't end the video like that. That is somebody else's phrase. I've been listening a lot to Just Some Guy's videos. He gives excellent commentary. And he also reviews manga and comic books that some of the other comic skaters don't always get to. So if you haven't, please check out Just Some Guy's channel. But I'm running a little long here. Love to hear people's thoughts, feedback. But yeah, I close with this. Comicsgate is about love, and the established comic book industry is all about what they hate.